Hi guys, Kip here at Thousands of Roots, and I'm going to bring you along on a journey, a storytelling journey, plus the journey of some chores today. These dogs are going crazy because I don't hardly ever get down to their level so they can get some lovin's from me. This is a very rare treat for them to get lovin's from me down on their level like this. So they're soaking it up. So here's a question I want to ask. Does experiencing adversity mean that you're going the wrong direction? So if you're taking a certain path, while you're on that path, when you experience severe adversity, does that mean you're going the wrong way? Well, I'll tell you our story and you can see what you think. Well, when we moved here from Alaska, just about 4 years ago, we had studied the whole nation when we realized what we wanted to do. We wanted to become as self-sufficient as possible, grow as much of our own food as we could, raise our own animals, and we didn't know how to do all this stuff, but anyways, that's what we wanted to do. So we chose Missouri as the place to do that because we knew what we wanted to do, and we wanted to teach our children how to do these things. So we bought a travel trailer, and then we prepared to move from Alaska. And to make that trek, you have to go from Alaska and drive through Canada on the Alcan Highway, and then punch in to, is it Northern Washington? Then we're going to go through Oregon, then to California where we have a bunch of family. So then from California, we were going to head right over to Missouri. So that's kind of an overview of the journey that we were planning on taking.
And the plan was to take a week vacation on the coast, Oregon coast, because that's where we honeymooned.
Yeah.
We were going to take the children there. Going to. Notice how I said we were going to.
We were going to. That was the plan.
That was the plan.
But somebody else had other plans for us. Plans of adversity. So, preparing to leave from Alaska, we had a 30-foot travel trailer. We've never RV'd it before, so this was a whole new experience for us. So we did a little bit of research and kind of figured it out, and we thought, and said all of our goodbyes and headed out. That first day, towards evening time, we pulled off at the gas station. And Carrie went into the trailer to get supper together for us. And she said, "Ah!" And I went, "What's wrong?" And she said, "The trailer blew up." "What do you mean the trailer blew up?" I looked in there and oh my goodness, all the cabinets had come open. Spices that were in jars, huge jars of spices. All kind of food, everything on the shelves and in the cabinets. All the cabinet doors had come open. There was all crazy broken glass, spices, all kinds of stuff just filling the floor. It's like, oh my goodness. It was an older travel trailer, but still it was designed to like snap shut, you know, so we thought, but you have to have an extra safety on those things, which we did not know that. So that was big lesson number one, and that's before we even got out of Alaska. Big lesson number two was stuff just happens, you know, like this kind of stuff just happens. We made it into Canada and we're cruising down the highway. We were in this canyon area, and all of a sudden smoke starts coming. Some smoke is coming from the truck. The truck's on fire! So as quick as I could, I found a spot to pull over, and we all jumped out, and I'm like looking in there. Well, yeah, there's some smoke, but it's not like getting worse or anything. It's getting less. And so then I look, and at the passenger side feet, there was this hole burned into it. and then we found out that right beneath that was the catalytic converter. The catalytic converter gets extremely hot. So what had happened was that between the catalytic converter and the feet of the passenger, that heat shield was gone. Had just eroded over time. So we had pulled off and we were stuck there. So we spent the night there in our trailer. And then the next day, I was like, what can we do? We've got to do something. And so I went on a walk and I was praying, please give me a sign, or, give me something to fix this with. And then I was looking at the road signs. I'm like, ooh, those big metal square road signs, that would work. But I can't just take down a road sign, from Canada. I mean, I might get in serious trouble, if they catch me. And I'm walking, I kind of look off, and I was only maybe 150 yards away from the truck and trailer where it was parked. And I'm kind of looking off into the woods and the dirt, and I see something sticking out of the dirt, and I'm going, that looks really weird, that's out of place. So I went to check it out, and what was it? One of those road signs that was 3/4 of the way buried, and just a piece of it, and then the support were sticking out of the ground. And so I dug it up, and I was dragging it back, and I was just like, yoo-hoo! So look, he gave us a sign! So we were able to, with the sledgehammer, hammer that up in there and create a heat shield between the catalytic converter and the feet.
And my feet.
And my love's feet.
Yep.
So after we had the sign in place, then we went back on the road. And it's kind of a tricky thing when you're thinking about living on the road, traveling on the road. So water becomes a big deal. So the next time we had opportunity, we filled up our water tank in our trailer. Well, there's one thing I didn't think about with this. The trailer was already fully loaded with all of our stuff because we were moving. All of our earthly possessions were in this trailer and in the truck. So we were loaded. Well, filling up the tank in the trailer made the trailer really loaded. So we're going along, after we filled it up, we were going along for hours there down the Alcon Highway in Canada. And I wanted just to keep going, but all of a sudden, this heavy fog just dropped on us. And it was getting towards evening time, so we were starting to think about dinner. And then this heavy fog drops, and I'm like, we just gotta pull over, because I can only go 20, 30 miles an hour in this heavy, heavy fog, and it was dangerous. So I found a truck stop, pull off, and I just pulled off and parked, and we just parked there the rest of the night. Then in the morning, I did my normal walk around before we take off every time, which means I walk around the truck, I walk around the trailers, I check the tires, all that stuff. And I found that one of the tires was bad on the trailer. Uh-oh. So then I looked at the next one and I found that all 4 of them were bad. Oh no. I mean, we have one spare, right? So I went and I found the worst one. They were all showing metal. So I went and found the worst one, got the jack out and everything, and I'm jacking it up. And one of the axles was raising the tire, so there was 2 axles on this thing. So as I was jacking it up, one of the axles was pulling the tire up and the tire was staying on the ground as the trailer's going up. What in the world is this? I'm not a mechanic. I'm not handy in that way. And then I look and I see the axle had separated from the trailer. Couldn't believe it. Now what are we going to do? I mean, we are in the middle of nowhere. So I went to this little teeny podunk gas station that was like a 1-pump gas station in a convenience store. And he said, I don't know. There's nothing we can do for you around here. He said, but maybe try this highway crew that's back behind you a ways. And it's this whole crew that goes and does road construction. And they had a whole camp set up. I'm like, okay. So, I took one of our children, right, hon?
Mm-hmm.
1 or 2 of them. And I went there, and it was this huge camp. They were temporary buildings, but they were semi-permanent buildings that they had all set up. And there was hundreds of people in this crew. And I went into the cafeteria, and it was pretty early in the morning still. And I explained what was going on to the person I met, and she said, hold on. And it was a woman. She said, hold on, let me go get somebody. I'm going to go get the boss. So the boss comes in all scraggly, like she woke him up. Like, oh, man. And I tell him my story, and he goes, what? You have how many children? And you're stuck where? I'm going to get my guy. He says, I have a guy who's got a mobile welding unit, and I'm going to get him. I'm going to go wake him up. I said, you're going to go wake him up? I said, no, don't wake him up. I don't want somebody coming all grumpy and frustrated. He goes, no. You got kids and a wife there on the side of the road. I'm going to go wake him up, but give us a couple hours. He said, can you wait a couple hours? And I said, no, I can't wait a couple hours, but I can come back. And so he said, yeah, I'll do that. So I left, and I got everybody and came back so they could meet everybody. And we were in this cafeteria, and everybody in this whole camp wanted to like meet us and talk to us and hear our story. You know, it was funny. And this mobile welding guy comes out and meets us and just took pity on us, you know. And sure enough, he followed us right out there to the trailer. And it takes him like a half hour, and he welds this thing back on like stronger weld than all the other ones. And he wouldn't hardly take any money. I finally got him to take $20 just for his time. He would take $20. And so that was crazy. So that day we took off, we get to the next town, and we go to a tire shop, and we get 4 new tires all around the trailer. So we stayed in an RV park that one night and got on the road again. And then just like 1 or 2 days after that, I hear the engine is sounding a little differently, is running differently. That's kind of weird, but it was still, on my lack of mechanical knowledge and experience, it was still going, so I didn't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going up this canyon, steep canyon, and then all of a sudden, boom, it overheats like in a second. It overheated, and steam was flying out of the hood. It was crazy. So I had to pull over as quickly as I could, and I pulled over, and it was a terrible place. It was like a dead man's turn. It was a blind corner, and I had to pull off on this blind corner, so everybody coming around the corner couldn't see us until they were just like 20 feet away from us. I got the trailer off the road with only that much room to spare from the white line. I mean, it was just barely off, so that was scary. And sure enough, the radiator had blown. So, somebody comes over, takes pity on us, and they call, and we get a tow. And that was, if you think about the expense here, the first big expense was 4 tires all the way around, which is pretty expensive. And everything in Canada is more expensive even. So tires all the way around. Now we're getting a tow, and the tows were very expensive because they had these like big rig tow trucks. Because what they would do is they pull the trailer onto the tow. No, they pull the truck onto the tow truck, and then hitch on the trailer onto the tow truck. Right. So it was a big deal. So we got towed to Canadian Tire, or Canada Tire Company, because they're a pretty big mechanic shop in Canada. And they said, oh yeah, your radiator's toast. But it's going to take a couple days to get it. So we parked there in the parking lot for 5 days, all told. 5 days of parking there. And we did get a new radiator, but it was actually, I said, let's get they asked if I wanted to get the upgraded radiator, larger capacity, thicker metal. I said, yeah, let's do that. It wasn't much extra, but I didn't want to keep having problems.
That's where some people found us, in our little trailer.
Yeah.
And told us they didn't think we should leave Canada. Because judgment was coming to the United States.
Yes, that was very interesting.
Uh-huh.
She was very convinced that terrible things are going to be happening in the United States and that we should just stay in Canada.
And we were seriously wondering if that was another sign.
Yeah, what is going on here? You know, that was craziness. But we didn't feel so inclined that way. So we kept to the path that we felt like we were led to go on. And we head on down the road, and it wasn't the first day, like the first couple hills we came to, I saw it was starting to overheat again. So now I'm like watching the heat indicator, you know, all the time, because, you know, this is bad. And it's starting to overheat, so I'm pulling over, letting it cool off, going on, pulling over, letting it cool off. And we get to this little town, and it was the same day, wasn't it, honey? That we left. Same day we left. Get this little town, and they had a Napa Auto Parts and a Napa Mechanics there. But we got there, was it Friday night? Mm-hmm. We got there Friday evening. The Napa Auto Parts store was still open, but the mechanics were gone for the day. So we made ourselves comfortable in their parking lot. And we went to the lake the next day because it was a beautiful day. Beautiful lake. So we just made the best of it, you know. And come Monday, they looked at our truck and they said, "Oh, your fan's not engaging." So there's a fan that once it gets hot, the fan engages and turns on, and it cools the radiator down. So again, I opted for the upgraded fan that was more heavy duty and that was supposed to spin faster and cool down better. So we did that. So we were there for, how many days were we there for, hon? We were there for just 4 days, right?
I think so.
Yeah, we were there for just like 4 days. We took off, and that evening we were making such good time, I just said, let's just go for it. I'm just going to keep going. So I stopped at a gas station, I got a big coffee, got it all mixed up the way I like it, and we kept going. And into the night, because it was nice and cool weather, I didn't realize this really, but it was nice and cool weather, and we weren't overheating. And so I just wanted to keep going. By this time I wanted to get out of Canada. No offense to all my Canadian friends. I love you and I love Canada. And by the way, I want to say this, that every time we broke down, people were so helpful. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Thank you, Canada.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get out of Canada. And so we're going, and like I went until like 2 something in the morning, and I'm coming down, and it's, again, we're out there in the middle of nowhere, of course, and we're coming down this good decline, and the truck just dies, just dies. Like I've never experienced such a thing. I'm 44 years old. I've been driving for quite a while, and I never experienced such a thing. I mean, just lights off. I mean, it wasn't just the engine died, the whole thing just died. All lights off, no power whatsoever. So I coasted as far as we could, and then I coasted up the next hill, and I was trying to pull over, but I couldn't see. My lights weren't working, and there was no road lights because we were out in the middle of nowhere. And I couldn't see to see how far I needed to get over to get off the road. And I knew we were in a kind of mountainous area, so I didn't want a chance getting too far over. And so I went over as far as I was willing to take the chance for, and stopped. The only thing that could stop me was my emergency brake. My brakes didn't work, nothing worked. But my emergency brake worked. So we got over, and we had flashlights. And so I had the flashlights. I put flashlights in place, like, 10 yards behind the trailer, blinking. We had flashlights in our hands, and all the kids were just sleeping through this, right? They're just sodden Z's. I mean, they're just sleeping. And I went on a walk to go down the hill a ways to kind of get my, feeling of where I was. And as I'm going away from the trailer quite a ways, I hear this howling off to the side. Oh! Serious howl. Wolves. There was wolves out there. I'm like, are you kidding me? And you can't be armed in Canada. You can't have your firearms as an American citizen. You can't have your firearms there unless you get all these special permits and all this kind of stuff. So I didn't have firearms on me. So that was really creepy. You know, 2-something in the morning, totally strange place, broken down, wolves howling. Are you kidding me? Right? No joke. And sure enough, a car comes by, and the first car that comes by, they stop. This guy stops, gets out, asks what's going on. I tell him, and he goes, "Oh, let me help you get off the road," so he could shine his lights. And I said, "Okay, you stand back, you know, behind the trailer, and just holler to me when I'm off far enough." And so I was trying to slowly back down and turn, and then when he hollered, by the time I got stopped, it was like he's like, "Whoa, sure, it's a good thing you stopped when you did." I go, "Okay," and I went and looked, and the back corner of the trailer is like hanging off the road, off this straight drop, like this canyon drop. So like a third of the trailer was hanging off. I was afraid that it was going to pop off from the hitch, and just I was afraid we were going to lose the trailer. But there was nothing I could do. I couldn't obviously go forward, and I couldn't back any differently, so that's just how it was. And they called the tow truck for us. And so we got towed again. And it was the same kind of tow truck setup. And they took us backwards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to go backwards, back the way we come. How many miles on this one?
I think 100 miles back.
Yeah, 100 miles back to the closest place. And it was the ignition solenoid had gone out. Which, okay, I never even heard that thing before. But it controls the electrical for your whole vehicle. My Chevy 96 anyways. And he exchanges that, and he did a little bit of work on the brakes on our trailer because they weren't working properly, and we were on our merry way, right?
By this time, the vacation on the northwest coast was out of the picture.
Yeah.
No more vacation.
Yeah. All the tow truck payments and the vehicle parts and just the time. Having to find food in all these places, water, just all the logistical stuff when you have children. So now we're on our merry way, and I see that it's still wanting to overheat. And at the Napa store, they said, well, it could be the thermometer that when it senses if the water's hot, it's connected to the radiator in the overflow. It senses when the water's hot, it pops open, so then the radiator fluid can cycle, right? Mm-hmm. He said it might be that, it might be sticking. Maybe it doesn't stick every time, maybe it sticks sometimes. So I pulled over on the side of the road, I changed out the thermometer. Then we were on the road again. Well, it was still overheating, and by this time I figured out how to kind of mitigate it. I would see that it was starting to overheat, and I could pull over, and what I had to do is take the hose off from the overflow and blow into it, which then blew the fluid back into the radiator. Because I don't understand what's going on, but I started to figure out how to kind of mitigate the problem. So after I would do that, I could wait just a few minutes and get back on the road. And all the while I'm talking to Carrie's dad, who's a master mechanic, and he had pretty strong suspicion he knew what was going on, and by now he's just saying, just get here and we'll fix it. And they live in Northern California. Central California. And so that was my goal, was to just make it there. And so I pull over, blow the radiator fluid back in, and I did my best at traveling when it was cool. That helped a lot. So we're finally making good time getting out of Canada, and we're getting close to the border crossing. And this day, it was a hot day, and we're going through another canyonous area, and I'm having to pull over a bunch to let it cool down, to blow the radiator fluid back in again and again. And we get through that spot, and we're on a flat, like 4-lane freeway, flat. And I'm going, yes!
We're gonna make it.
We're gonna make it. And the radiator blows up. I could not believe it. On the flat ground. So I pull over, and I put some radiator fluid in, and I can see the radiator fluid just, not just running through, but going through pretty quickly. And we we get on the phone and whatnot. We get some help from people again. We found out that there's another Canadian Tire just up the road a little ways, like a couple miles.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, well, I'll just fill it up and start it and go, you know, and then pull over and check it again, you know, in a mile. And I did that. When I pulled over to check it again, it still was like halfway full, so I just refilled it, and then we made it haul the rest of the way to Canadian Tire. So again, we got to spend the night in the mechanic's parking lot. Okay, but the good thing was that the radiator was under warranty, so they replaced it for free. So they replaced it pretty quick. It was just like, we were there for only like 2 days, right?
Something like
1
that.
or 2 days.
1 or 2 days.
And we took off, we made the border crossing, and basically from there on to Carrie's parents' house, we made it there, no incident, basically. I had to keep pulling over and letting it cool down and all this kind of stuff, but basically no incident until we got to Carrie's parents' place. We started taking the engine apart, and Carrie's dad was like, yep, just what I thought. Blown head gasket. That's what it was the whole time. That was the problem. So, I said to her, Dad, you just tell me what to do, and I will do all the work. And he goes, okay, sounds good to me. And so that's what we did. We took the whole top half of the engine apart. He, with a ping and hammer, pinged the place that he knew it was that the head gasket had blown. He pinged that place. He manipulated that metal. Then we sanded it and refinished it by hand. Put it all back together, and it ran like a champ. And it ran all the way till we got to Southern California, to my family's house. Then when we were there, the first night we went. My sister wanted to take us to the movies, so we went to the movies. We come back out of the movies, the truck wouldn't start. The same truck, it wouldn't start. So then they had the mobile, like, car battery thing come out to us, and he did some testing, and it was like, yeah, your battery's bad, and I don't have the battery here, so it's going to be a little while. And we didn't want to leave the truck where it was, so we got it towed again. But it was just the battery, thankfully.
Third tow.
Third tow of the trip.
Without the trailer that time, though.
Without the trailer that time, though, so that was a big difference. And we had people we knew and family around us and everything, so that was a big difference. But one of the things I do want to say is that my brother asked my children, once we were there, he said, how was the trip? And they said, it was fine. Because he had heard the story. He knew all the adversity that had happened. And here's what I knew. The whole time that this was happening, I kept my cool, I kept calm, I never panicked, I did get crazy mad, but I kept it inside. Like, I just kept envisioning taking a sledgehammer to the truck, because I was so crazy angry. But I didn't do it, and I didn't let them see how frustrated and flustered and upset I was. Because I knew that if I did that, like if I broke down, then they would all break down. So I didn't do that. So now we've been here for just over 4 years. And are we experiencing adversity? Yep.
Every day.
Every day. So this trip prepared us for that, I think. And also it hardened our resolve that just because you're experiencing adversity doesn't mean you're going the wrong direction.
Right.
Actually, oftentimes, if you're experiencing adversity, that's because you're going the wrong direction. So don't be afraid of adversity. Overcome it. Keep on keeping on. Do what you know you're supposed to do. But whatever you do it with your whole heart.